Hi guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video will be best classes to main in the Wall Within. So, having tested every single class, even DH, which is not really my favorite class, big spoiler, I can now kind of decide which I'm going to main or alt going into the War Within, but also talk about the maybes and the riskies, because again, some classes are more risk versed than others, and also which one I'm going to hard pass going to the War Within. And this is going to be a exercise that you can do the same for you at home. But obviously, I'm here to kind of inspire you guys to also look for a new main, or maybe your previous main is still your main, but obviously make you think about specific things you should look for your main in the War Within. So, really quickly, I'm going to explain the different tiers. It is not really 100% tied to power. Some is kind of tied to power, but it is mostly about power. Do I feel like I'm connected with the class? Do I feel like I can play multiple roles maybe? Do I feel like I can play multiple comps? Is it good in solo QRPG? Like, do I feel myself going to be useful in those solo QRPG situations? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be sustainable? So, for example, if I'm going to play for a week, am I going to be tired or not of that class? And in some sort also, am I familiar enough on that class to actually enjoy my time to rank up? So those are my reasons. We have main, alt, maybe, risky, hard pass. Main, big spoiler, normally I main around 3 to 4 classes every single season, so it might be 3 to 4 classes that I'm going to main. A few alts because I do want to keep up with the news of the classes, but also just in general have information on those classes to make videos, for example, or to know how to beat them. Again, some classes you should play them to understand them a bit better. Then you have the maybes, where I'm actually hesitating to put him on main or alt, because it is actually a very hard decision to make, and it's not something you can do by playing pre-patch or like looking at the beta. We have risky, which are classes that are notoriously always going to be a risk. If you want to main them, chances are you might maybe not enjoy them because the balancing is really terrible, or they are not really doing the rework that is needed for them, or anything that is tied to, look, if I main that, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy that, for example. And hard pass is like a clearly I'm not going to play that class. So let's start with the obvious. I want to say that I'm going to main DK in the War Within, and for multiple reasons. First and foremost, there are like 2 specs that I really enjoy, which is Unholy and Frost Decay. Frost Decay being my all-time favorite spec of all times. Like, it's really the spec that I enjoyed in Wrath of the Lich King, even in Cataclysm. I played it always, and even whenever Unholy was like clearly the better spec, I always played Frost Decay more. And Frost Decay is, for the first time, I think, in 3 expansions, fun to play in my eyes. Like, it's really flavorful. You have multiple builds that you can play. You can play dual build, you can play two-hander, you can play a build where you have multiple stuns, or you can play a build where you have only 1 stun and you have like a better, like, consistent consistent damage. Excuse me. With Rhyme, for example, and with your Howling Blasts. You have also like a few builds that are more around like AoE damage, even if you want to play around that. You have also a build where you can actually just go full on obliterate and actually like destroy people with sometimes a frost strike, dealing huge amount of damage. And then you have also the hero taunts being like so fun. We have Deathbringer for Frost Decay, which is my favorite hero taunts for Frost Decay. And then you have Rider of the Apocalypse, which is actually a very flavorful hero taunt for both Unholy and Frost Decay. But for Unholy Decay, you also have like Sanjin, which is also a very fun. I don't even know if I did pronounce it correctly, but it's a very fun, flavorful hero taunt as well. Like, I think the hero taunts are really well made for DK, so that is also something I'm looking forward to. But also the fun factor is it is here. I think the balancing is also here for them. I think they're going to be both very viable. You also have a blood DK tank that is also possible to play if you want to, like to change up a bit of the pace in PvP. Although again, tanks in PvP is not really like very well regarded, but having that option is always going to be quite nice. Even if you want to just level with blood DK to get faster tanks, tank dungeons, for example. Overall, I'm very satisfied. And then same for unholy DK. I think the rework is also fantastic. Like you have clearly 3 builds that are working very fantastically, and you can have also a 4th build where you have like a bit of a mix of everything, like disease, wounds, and pets. Like I think not a lot of specs can actually decide, or classes that can actually say to themselves that they have truly different builds that they can play and be competitive with it. I like DK, and I think a lot of people are like realizing it, and they're also leveling it. I think Frost DK has like a unanimous sound of approval from a lot of DK mains, which reassures my decision to main DK. Even if they nerf it, I think I'm still going to play DK because of the flavorful hero taunts and the fun ways to play the game as a DK. And also comp-wise, I think Frost DK has way more comps right now because of how they can play. So that's also very fun to look forward to test it. Now, let's talk about DH, which is no surprise to anyone that knows the channel. For me, it's right now a hard pass. I think the lack of a 3rd spec, which is a DPS spec, is already like a hard thing for me, because I like to have a diverse gameplay, and if a spec is annoying me, then I can always switch to the 2nd spec of that like class to enjoy myself. And I don't enjoy Vengeance Demon Hunter. I never really liked it. Having Demon Hunter has moments where I can enjoy it, but it's really so like little that I don't feel like I want to main it or alt it. I might just play it sometimes to see what the buttons are doing, the talents are doing, what the hero turns are, how the hell did I get defeated by a demon hunter, like kind of deal. But overall, I don't feel confident to play demon hunter. I think it's a bit boring in my eyes. I do feel like a lot of people might main it though, because it's still very strong, and it's, I think, something that is flavorful for many people, but not for me. I think there's like a lot of things that are missing. I think the hero sounds are like a bit boring as well in my eyes as well. Yeah, I think it's bound to get nerfed as well in balancing changes, because it already was very strong like whole of Dragonflight, and then we also have the War Within, where clearly it seems like it's going to be very strong as well. So at least in PvP, I think in PvE, you have some people actually talking about Demon Hunter and saying that it's not like very optimal right now, but that's not really my concern. And PvP wise, I'm like hard passing it right now. So it probably is the last class I'm going to level to level 80. I'm going to level every single class because again, it's kind of my hobby with YouTube to be able to talk about those classes and not be ridicule about it. But right now it's not really in my optics to actually level it like very fast. Druid has always been something where in Classic I am actually maining a Druid. Even in SOD I played Druid, even in Cataclysm I'm playing a Druid, in Wrath of the Lich King I did play a Druid. I think in Mist of Pandaria, whenever it's going to come out, I'm going to play Druid. I just do think that right now Druid, if I have to compare retail to Cataclysm, I feel like Cataclysm Druid is more fun to me. But that's my opinion. Again, I think a lot of people might think otherwise. I think Resto Druid has it very well in the War Within. I think it's still going to be very strong. I think also the hero tones are also quite flavorful, so that's a positive. I was a Resto Druid healer main, kinda. I'm not really maining a healer, but whenever I had to heal, I was playing Resto Druid, and I like got some good results with it. Now the problem is that I don't really enjoy too much of Resto Druid. I like Resto Druid sporadically, but to say that I'm going to main it is very tough. And Feral Druid is like in a state where you can have fun, but it feels like you have to main it constantly to actually like have a good grasp on the spec. And Balance Druid, I think, it's strong. Its solo QRBG is, I think, one of the strongest caster in the game. I think maybe the strongest caster in the game. Like regardless of balancing, I think it's going to be the kit, going to be impressive, going to do War Within. Then you have also Garden Druid, which is probably the best like tank PvP wise in the game as well. But I think I have like a difficult time to say to myself that I'm going to main on retail Druid. So I'm going to put it as maybe, or I'm not going to say risky because I think Druid always had like at least one spec or two like competitive. I think Balance Druid is like a safe spec to main if you want to play solo RPGs, for example. I think solo shuffle wise you will be the target, but in threes you can play like some comps where you're not the target. And Resto Druid, I think season 1 is always like the slowest season for Resto Druids, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be the case for the War Within. Now again, balancing still can happen, so don't take balancing like as a huge portion of my decision making. But I would say that if it's not busted in season 1, I would not be surprised because it's always like this for Resto Druid. And then season 2, season 3 it kicks in with buffs and with adjustments where you can see Druid being overtaking it because of like mastery, how they scale with it, and if they can have a bit of haste because of going mastery. You are lacking haste in season 1 most likely. But anyways, for me it's a maybe. I think Druid is like a big like question mark for me where I'd like to alt it, but I don't know if I have the time for it, especially since I have other classes in my mind. Evoker is interesting because I did play a lot of Evoker in season 4 if I'm not mistaken. I did play Augmentation Evoker, I did play like Preservation Evoker mostly because of the queue times being very low, and Devastation Evoker. I think Preservation Evoker is still one of the most fun specs in the game if you want to heal. I just again am like in a difficulty position where I don't wanna main Evoker because of the aesthetics of the class. Already discussed it multiple times. I think if you have watched my tier lists, I think you are pretty tired of me saying that. But I don't want to play like a skinny dragon that has no transmog on him whenever he's fighting. Having like a naked dragon like all the time is kind of silly in my eyes. I think also Blizzard kind of shoots themselves in the foot because many people play for transmogs and how they look, and now you play like a Drakthea, which basically half of the time, at least 90% of the time whenever you're in combat, I would even say 99%, you are naked and you don't have any gear. Like for druids, I can understand you shapeshift every single time with bear form, feral form. You can change those appearances as well. You have like transmog itself because of like the appearances of like a fire kitty or a void kitty probably in the War Within. So it's different. But for like evokers, I don't feel like the same vibe. I just don't want to have that. So for me, it's going to be a risky to hard pass. I'm going to say risky because I don't know if I want a main. It could be a good decision to do so. I think Preservation Evoker is going to be very strong. Devastation Evoker is going to be also very strong. And it's one of the classes that can play with like anything and be like successful with. But I do feel like I don't wanna main Evokers right now. Not at the same level as a hard pass the Demon Hunter. I would say it is nowhere near the level of a DK wanting to main kind of deal. Hunter. Now Hunter is interesting because I wanna at least alt it because I always had like the occasions where I feel like like playing Hunter is fun. BM Hunter gets enough changes to be more fun than what we had before. I just think the hero turns are very bland. It's not fun. I think if you pitched me the idea of Dark Ranger, I would like not like guess the state of how it is right now. I would think about really Dark Ranger where every single spell becomes like shadow. Literally a lot of like the spells that you are shooting are literally about shadow. I think for me, Dark Ranger is like a whole class. It's a whole like new class that you could make, and they kind of baked it into our hero tons, which like frankly, except Black Arrow, there's not a lot of like flavor towards it. I think they kind of like it's a whole miss. I think they didn't do or they didn't think too much about it. They thought, oh, Dark Ranger is going to be quite cool to do it as a hero taunt, but they didn't like put the effort into how they look. And I know it has nothing to do with balancing because again they could boost it, like they could buff it to S tier levels, but for me it kind of fails on the department of designing and how they could actually have done something with it, especially since they have the art for it. So it's weird that they are not using it. But that aside, I think Survival Hunter is going to be quite interesting. I think MM is going to be a bit more fun than what we had in Dragonflight, and BM Hunter will be more fun than we had in Dragonflight. But now every single class becomes more fun. Every single class becomes a bit more interesting. I do feel like Hunter is one of the classes that are a bit more bland to me. If I was going to alt or main it, it would be because I have like some sort of a affiliation to hunters, because I do content about hunters. I do play Hunter on Classic. I do play Hunter as well in Cataclysm. Hunter was also my first level 60 back in the day. Again, I have like some sort of feelings towards Hunter, but I don't think it's like a good, well-placed feeling that I like ready to play it and ready to again deep dive into that class. And whenever I'm like talking about with friends, I do feel like again we don't really have great comps with it. So I'm not really pushed towards playing Hunter also for my comps or for my friends. So right now it's a risky. I don't want to really risk maining Hunter and then like get disappointed about like the missing flavor from hero tons and the missing flavor on a lot of stuff. I think the tier sets were never really flavorful in my opinion. I think a lot of the changes that they did were mechanically interesting and defensively like great. But I think like on the cool factor, I think they missed out on a lot of stuff. I think BM Hunter still misses a lot of stuff that they had from before. I still think Stampede should be baseline for BM Hunter, but that's my opinion. I think MM Hunter could have a lot of like stuff, like for example Chimera Shot being like something back instead of like having something that it is replaced by Arcane Shot and becoming like AoE. Should be like it's a spell from before, like Cataclysm, where whenever you have like a Serpent's thing on, it does more damage. Whenever you have like another thing up, it becomes like a silence or a disarm. Something they could do more, but they are not doing it. So for me, Hunter, it's kind of risky. I don't know. I could, but for now, it is not the case. Mage. Now, Mage, I did play a lot on the pre-patch. I did also play on the War Within beta. I already discussed about it on my previous video, but from my testing and from my playing, I do feel like it is in a hard versus matchup with other classes that I could play. And whenever I'm comparing Mage towards like Warlock, Shaman, heck, even like Druid with Balanced Druid, even Evokers, I do feel like I'm having less fun with Mage. But I do feel like the hero towns could add more fun. But in my mind, I was and I probably will never be a Mage main. Like, it's very tough for me to imagine myself playing Mage every single day, while Warlock is something that is more natural to me, while Shaman is way more natural to me, and Mage feels like a bit off. And I think the playstyle is quite fun. I think you can have a lot of impact on solo RPG, which you would not have the same impact in like normal team RPG, like 10v10. I think solo shuffle, you being the target has like negatives, but also positives, where you are more in control of your own health than your ally, for example. So that's a good thing. I think 2v2 you can play double DPS, which is a like it's luxurious to have as a DPS spec. Like some specs, the double DPS, they don't work. Like for example, Arms Warrior double DPS just doesn't work well. Or for example, like Frost Decay double DPS just doesn't work well. But Mage you can do with a Rogue. You can even play double Mage. You can play Mage Lock. You can play Mage Shadow Priest. You can even play Mage Retribution Paladin and be successful with it. Even Mage Hunter, you can do something with it. Again, you have multiple things that you can play around. But for now, I'm going to say that I don't want to put it in risky because I think it's not really risky. I think if I'm maining it, I'm going to have a bit of fun, but I already know the result. It's me going back to what I already know very well, which is Shaman and Warlock. So I'm going to put it as hard pass. And don't get me wrong, I think I will be playing Mage. It's not going to be my last spec that I'm going to level, because that would be the DH class, I would say, not spec. But I do feel like currently Frost Mage is fun, Fire Mage is fun, and Arcane Mage is also fun. But if I have to compare it with Destruction Warlock, Affliction Warlock, and even Demonology Warlock, I do feel like Warlock has way more interest from me than Mage. But obviously, you can ask to your neighbor or to your friend, and they might say, but Mage is so much more cooler than Warlock, and that's good. That's opinions, and you might have a different opinion about it. It's again an opinionated tier list, so it's not like hard science. Some people may say, DK, oh, I'm never going to play that, but for me, DK is going to be like probably the best melee you can play right now in the War Within, especially like flavorful wise. But anyways, Mage, hard pass. Monk. So I played a bit of Monk on the beta, not too much though. I played a bit of Monk on the pre-patch, but not too much though, because again, they actually managed to break the honor transfer, so it was very hard to actually gain gear on the Monk. And once I had like gear on the Monk, I realized that like physical damage didn't do too much on the pre-patch because of the armor problems that we have. So I can't really get like a good chance on the Monk like DPS spec. We have also mistweaving, which is again a spec that is going to be very strong in RPGs, also in solo queue RPGs. I think healing is always going to be interesting, but it's also one of the less aggressive healing specs if you're playing the casting mistweaver. You can also play fist weaving, but fist weaving is such a risky spec to play. It's not always going to be good. Like I think season 1 fist weaving was not that good in Dragonflight until they changed a few things, and it became quite good at 10.0.7 if I'm not mistaken, and then onwards season 2, season 3, and then season 4 as well, and they got a few nerfs, they got a few buffs, but it was not the case in Dragonflight, for example. In Shadowlands, excuse me. In Shadowlands, fist weaving was like not really the best thing ever, right? It was more likely that we're going to play casting mistweaver, and in some instances you were fist weaving, but in Dragonflight you had a bit more fist weaving, and now it seems that fist weaving is still going to be the go-to for the War Within, but I'm afraid that they're going to nerf it. So for me, I cannot really decide right now if I'm going to do something with Monk because I didn't test too much, but it is a class that I might test and maybe like it. Before I always said that one windwalker was never going to be an option for me, but after like playing on the beta, the hero towns being very flavorful, I think the multiple changes that they did on the like spec tree makes you to decide different builds, which is also fantastic, which you didn't have in Dragonflight. I think in Dragonflight you only played one build and that's it, from my understanding. But Windwalkers on the War Within, you have multiple builds, you have also multiple hero towns that you can go for, and in my opinion, it's also a great class to play. So I'm going to play Monk, but I'm not going to main it or alt it for now because it's a difficult decision to me. It's difficult enough to say that it is risky, because if I might play it in the War Within and not like it, I would lose a lot of time by leveling it, a lot of time by gearing it, and a lot of time to actually put my effort into learning Monk. And I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. So for me, it's going to be risky. I think for a lot of people, they might be like, look, Monk is going to be the shit. I want to play that. And I can understand that because from my POV, I read the class changes, I read the spec changes. I even read every single hero talent and tested it on the beta, and it seemed fun to me. But again, it's something like I have to test it in real situations, like in solo queue RPG, is it going to be fun? In 2v2, is it going to be fun? In 3v3, is it going to be fun? Or in social, is it going to be fun? Those are things that I need to test to actually say, look, I might going to main it or alt it. So for me, it's going to be in the risky. So we did a lot of like classes here and there, and we only have one main and no alts, so it's a bad start. But you will see now we have like the last 6, and those last 6 are more of a big hesitation towards what I'm going to main or alt like next season, which is the War Within Season 1. So we have Paladin. And Paladin, I already discussed it in previous video. I played a lot of Retribution Paladin, liked, and I think it is just too busted, and it's very hard to know if it's going to be very fun if the numbers are a bit more correct. But I do feel like they have 2 good hero towns, specs, I would say. And you have some playstyles, but I think Retribution Paladin only has like 1 playstyle, and you have like one big change that you need to know. Are you going to do Crusading Strikes, or are you going to do Temper Strikes? That is mostly the choices that you are going to make. But I did enjoy Retribution Paladin. I think it is also one of the classes that has the most versatility in what they do in 2v2, 3v3, like comp-wise, what they are playing in solo queue RPGs. I think it's also a high impact class for that. So for me, it is already good for Retribution Paladin. What I actually began to like is playing melee Holy Paladin. So melee melee wings Holy Paladin. So I did play a lot on it on the pre-patch, on the beta I did tests as well. They also buffed Crusader Strike for Holy Paladin, so it means also more healing. Your Hammer of Wrath is also buffed, I think, but the duration, the CD is nerfed, but you can play Veneration, I think, where it resets the CD of Hammer of Wrath. You can find a few things here and there to play melee wings and do like a lot of damage. Yeah, I think Paladin is for me a main worthy class. I think Protection Paladin can be fun as well, but it's still like a tank. Unfortunately, tanks are just like too taboo on this game. So for me, it's going to be Retribution Paladin and Holy Paladin. And I think for next season, it will be my main healer. I think if I have to heal next season, it will be as a Holy Paladin. I think I might enjoy it as well. I do know that melee wings is not like the meta. Don't get me wrong. I think most likely as a Holy Paladin, you're going to play caster wings and that's it. But I actually really enjoyed my time playing melee wings in this broken meta as well. So I want to see how it does in season 1. It might be very bad, but then I will be just going to go caster wings. But I will go with the mindset of I want to play melee wings and play with aggressive gameplay in mind. So I'm going to play like a big cleave, for example, if I'm playing Holy Paladin, and play with a Frost Decay Warrior, and I'm going to go melee with them, and hopefully it's going to be a good result. We'll have to see. But that's my plan. I think Paladin having like good hero towns, flavorful. I think TSS are also cool. I think overall the feeling of the class is there. I think they just like improve every single time, and that's a good thing to have for your future main or alt. Priest. The interesting is about Priest is it seems so good. Like Shadow Priest has like a build where you're playing around your Mindflay Insanity, and you can stack it multiple times because of Arcane. So you have Halo, and you can actually like do multiple Mindflay Insanities at once. Like not at once, but like you get kicked on one. That's not a problem because you have others stored, so you can just pump whenever you want. I think I'm kind of torn because do I really want to main Shadow Priest? Especially season 1. I do know that Shadow Priest has a bit of comp diversity, which is very fun, and you also have 2 healing specs. Disc Priest you can pretty much void weave, which is kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie, testing it on the beta, I actually enjoyed it. And then you have also Holy Priest, which is like I'm not going to say the most basic healer, but if you have to think about a healing spec, you would be thinking about Holy Priest. I didn't test too much Holy Priest, but I did test Disc Priest and Shadow Priest. Enjoyed my time. I like Disc Priest. Like in 2v2, it's probably one of the most fun specs in the game because you can pump. You can literally play a DPS with that, so it's actually very fun. But for me right now, it's more of a, I kind of hesitate to main it. So I'm going to put it on maybe right now. Now I'm not really decided because again, we want alts, so it might be a alt for me. But I do have a lesser maybe than Druid, so it is more likely to be an alt than a Druid, for example. But I need to see if I have the time to learn it again. I think Shadow Priest being like so immobile, it does feel frustrating at times. It will depend on like balancing mostly. If like the balancing is crap for Shadow Priest, for example, if it does like noodle damage, literally you're slapping like wet water on people, I'm not going to play it. But if it's going to be strong enough to have fun, I might play it. So that's kind of my criteria for priest. Like it has to be good. If it's not good, I'm most likely not going to main it. It's kind of like a flavor of the month kind of class for me, where if it's good, I might play it. If it's bad, I am the one that is going to jump out of that wagon ASAP. While the DKs or paladins or even warriors, for example, if they become a bit less interesting, which often not, they have at least one spec being interesting, I might not jump out of the wagon. I try to stick with them because I actually enjoy the class fantasy. I enjoy the play style, the feel of the class, for example. So there is that. Rogue is interesting because I actually began to like it a lot. And yes, I just saw the nerfs on the CC, and I'm not as like against those nerfs because I do feel like nerfing the CC kind of makes them able to balance other aspects on the class that are maybe lacking. For example, subtlety rogue consistent damage is lacking. So if they nerf CC, my idea is that they are going to most likely buff a few things that are lacking. And I do feel like 30 seconds CT instead of 20 seconds is a concern, but also not that much, because I think it gets reduced by outlaw rogue, for example. So your kidney shot will be reduced, so it will be anyways like faster up than the other specs. I also think assassination rogue, your kidney shot most likely is used on your kill target, and you're not going to use it whenever people are DR'd. So 20 seconds, the DRs are like, I think, a bit more than 20 seconds if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's 25 seconds or something like that. So you are not going to kidney shot every 20 seconds regardless if you are going to do on the kill target. And if it's 30 seconds, it's fine, because again, it aligns very well with your CDs as well. So for me, I'm on the fence. I think Subtlety Rogue do have a problem with that because they have Shadowlands, so they can actually triple cheap shot and have the kidney shot on the healer. But that's a problem for one single spec. And I think Subtlety Rogue is one of those specs that are going to be good because of the damage that they do. If they have like one-shot damage, it becomes good. If it has no one-shot damage, it becomes like a bit of a CC bot. And I think in the War Within, you will have an opportunity to have Subtlety Rogue do some good damage. But I think it's very hard to balance. But playing Rogue from 1 to 70, playing my Rogue, like I have now two Rogues, right? I have a Dark Iron Dwarf and I have a Night Elf Rogue. I have a Rogue that I leveled Outlaw Rogue from 1 to 70. I even play only Outlaw Rogue on that character. And even with the armor problems and with the problems that we have naturally with the scaling and the balancing, I did enjoy my time as Outlaw Rogue. So for me, I'm going to main Rogue next season. Because of like a few things. 2v2, I think it's very fun to be able to double DPS. 3v3, I think it's very fun to be able to play multiple comps depending on the spec that you're playing. Solo shuffle, I think it's very frustrating, but I already get frustrated with solo shuffle regardless, because I also play different specs and classes that have those problems. And solo QRBG, I think, having played so many solo QRBGs as a stupid outlaw rogue, I still manage to win games because I'm able to play objectives. And I think rogues they don't really want to be able to only deal damage if you're playing solo queue RPG. You want to be able to have double vanish, have CC, and being able to cap the nose or slow the EFC down. And if you're assassination rogue, most likely you're going to one-shot the AFC anyways. So you have still a dynamic. If you want to play just like a Zug spec, you still have assassination rogue. If you want to play like a subtlety rogue, you can still do that. And if you want to play outlaw rogue, which is more like reliant on CC and doing like annoying stuff, that is also an option. So I have like high goals with rogue. I want to learn it, and I'm not the most proficient rogue out there, but I really want to learn it. So it's, again, the fun is overtaking it, because if I have to read every single post on Reddit, if I have to go with the testing that I did on the beta, I would not be playing rogue, because people are doing, and I was also doing on the beta. But from my playtime as a rogue, I actually became actually more fond about rogue. So I want to play more. So that's a good thing. Shaman. Now, Shaman is interesting because I really want to main it. I really want to main it, but it's such a risky it's such a risky class. By my standards of the tier list, I should put Shaman into risky, because it is probably one of the classes that have the most balancing swings of the. They are ready to destroy the class or make it S tier pretty much. You have either a class that is functioning from A to Z, or you have a class that is actually dysfunctioning and they need to rework. Now, they did a rework on Elemental Shaman. It's, for me, in my eyes, incredible. I think the pre-patch kind of shows how busted it can be because of stats. But if you go on the beta and the stats are normalized, because they are normalized on the beta, they are a bit more fair and you can test way more, it still feels good. Some people are still dooming about Elemental Shaman. I don't know why or how, but they actually are good in PvE. They are actually good in PvP as well. I think you just need to switch your playstyle and you can have a great time with it. So for me, right now, if I have to decide if I'm going to main or alt Shaman, for me it's going to be a main, because they have like two fantastic specs. I think Enhancement Shaman is going to be tons of fun. Although, again, balancing wise, it might be like probably the most risky spec out there. But I really enjoy Enhancement Shaman. I just want to love that spec because it always was one of the specs that I have enjoyed in the past. It might be very, very biased again. So I would not recommend probably people to play Enhancement Shaman because it is not really a recommendable spec. You still need a lot of keybinds. You still need to play your bottoms, I would say, off to actually achieve something. But I do feel like it is one of the classes that are like, it is probably the most satisfying to main and to learn. I also have history on the YouTube channel. I think people do love and enjoy my takes on Shaman, and myself, I do enjoy my time whenever I'm playing Shaman as well. So I'm going to main it. I don't know if I'm going to be very successful at it because it depends on balancing. Elemental Shaman, I'm going to play my way, which always going to be the case. And Enhancement Shaman is going to be played multiple ways, but I'm going to enjoy every single one of them. And Restoration Shaman, I'm going to probably do a bit of healing here and there, but it would be for capping or for if my friend wanna play DPS and I don't want to switch, I'll be playing Restoration Shaman, for example. But yeah. Now, big spoiler: the two last are my alts, Warlock and Warrior. Let's talk about Warrior first. I think Warrior is a big contender of becoming a main though. So I think it is one of the closest alts, I would say, characters where I do consider them main anyways, even if they are alt, because I played Warrior every single season so far. I always played Warrior. I think Warrior is probably my most played class out there with Shaman and with Warlock. And I enjoy Arms Warrior, I enjoyed Fury Warrior, I enjoy the theory crafting behind it. I think there is a lot of nuance behind Warrior as well. I think you have a spec, a class that is capable to play every single stat and be good, which is something that is probably like making a lot of classes jealous, because having like haste being good, crit being good, mastery being good, even versatility being good is something like some classes can't say. Like for example, subtlety rogue with haste is like literally. I don't remember the time where subtlety rogue played haste. That's the kind of deal I had. But arms warrior, you could find someone that is playing full crit. You can find someone that is playing haste, and someone that is playing full mastery, and they are all in the top 10 of best warriors, for example. So it's a good class. I think Fury Warrior is also going to be a lot better than Dragonflight on the playstyle front. Now I don't know if it's going to be better balancing wise, but I think playstyle wise, it is in the right direction. So for me, it is a good alt. I always level it very quickly because I do enjoy the playstyle most likely. I think solo RPG is, since I do enjoy solo RPG, I'm going to spend most of my time there. That is the thing that made me decide warrior is maybe not my main, because I do feel like solo RPGs doesn't make you shine too much as a warrior, because you're not very, like, you're not specifically good in 1v1s. You also don't have great CC, so capping a node doesn't really happen that often. I think you're kind of good of an EFC because every single defensive is usable for you, but you are very slow. Like you don't have a lot of mobility outside of charging onto an enemy. But if an enemy is only behind you, it's very hard to charge behind you while you're trying to get forward. And your leap is okay, but it's like nowhere near what it was with the PvP talent from back in the day, where you could leap like 3 times in a row. So and protection warrior is quite interesting as well. I wanna do something with it, but I need to see how it goes in the war within. But I think arms and fury are both great options. And if I had to recommend a class for anyone that wants to play like a melee, I think warrior is probably the best melee you can play if you don't know what to play. I think that is probably the most. I would say flavorful, but also basic. And basic not in a bad sense, but basic where if you want to know and learn basics of like physical damage dealers that are melee and that are like prone to kiting, prone to be kited around, I do feel like warrior is one of those classes. And then we have Warlock, which is my pet peeve class. It always was like at least alt level. It could be a main level. To be fair, like if Paladin drops out, it would be Warlock that is going to take the place. If DK drops out, it would be Warrior, for example. But right now, DK, I don't feel like I'm going to drop it out because it seems so fun to me. Outside of the damage that it does. But Warlock, interesting. They have like 3 interesting class specs. You can talk a lot about Warlocks. I think you can also play multiple comps that can be successful as well. Solo RPGs is going to be so much fun with a Warlock because, again, you have so much liberty and you have so much time to cast. It seems like you're not like invincible at times. I also like the health stone changes where you can actually use a health stone every minute. Even in combat, it doesn't like it doesn't get like a problem where you have to reset the combat. Now you just are able to healthstone multiple times in combat, which is quite nice. I think just in general, demonology, affliction warlock, and destruction warlock are so different from each other that it could be literally a different class, and that's why I enjoy my time whether I'm playing warlock. So those are my 6 characters that I'm going to play most likely in the War Within, except if they do like a big change last minute where I feel like I'm getting betrayed, kinda. Then I might like change it. But for now, if you wanna like expect content like in the War Within, it will be about DK, it will be about Shaman, it will be about Rogue, it will be about Paladin. You will see some warrior content and you will see some warlock content. You might even see some priest or some druid content, but more likely you're not going to see too much content about those 5 classes, except hunter, because again it could be also a maybe class, but hunter always has like some sort of love to me, like that want to make it work. But I think I'm so disappointed about the hero talents for hunter that I don't want to main it. Like I feel like they are too lazy to do anything about hunter. They did a great job on the balancing part. Like I think it is more coherent defensively, but I don't play only because something is good. I want to play because it's fun or because it's flavorful, because I feel like I'm like cool while playing. Like I'm trying to imagine myself into a montage video. Although montage videos, I'm not really making it because it's very hard with copyright strikes. I'm imagining myself like if I had like sick music on the background, am I going to feel like I'm doing a good video? And for Hunter right now, I don't feel the case. Like I don't feel like it's going to be something fun to do. While the other specs, like mains and alts, I do feel like I can blast some music and have a lot of time and a lot of fun with it. So this is my tier list. This is my decision for the mains going into the War Within. I did a lot of testing, played every single class pretty much in the pre-patch, in the beta as well, and I kind of think through. I like normally if you have asked me in Dragonflight, was I going to main Rogue in the War Within, I would probably say no. But having played Rogue from 1 to 70, having played on both my two Rogues, and on my beta as well, and testing the Rogue and the changes and the feeling of the spec and the classes, the class and the specs, I do feel like I'm having fun with Rogue, especially like in solo RPG where you have so much like say on how a match goes. It feels refreshing whenever you're playing like Rogue and you're jumping, let's say, on a Warrior. It seems like Warrior has no say on if you're going to win a match or not. So it's very very weird, but it makes me enjoy the game. Like they're never going to nerf Rogue to the point where you're not going to be able to enjoy your time in solo RPG. It's never going to happen. So again, thank you for watching this video. Really, I appreciate you. It has been a long video, but hopefully it was something you are enjoying. If anything, please let me know which classes or mains or alts, whatever, you're going to main in the War Within in the comment section below. I'll try to respond as well. If anything, you have a question about a specific class, specific role, specific whatever, I'll try to respond to you. Again, it's not because I put something on hard pass that you should also put it on hard pass. Like some people love playing Demon Hunter. I am not. But if you love playing Demon Hunter and you feel like you're going to main the war in the War Within Demon Hunter, please do. More power to you. I mean, not everyone has to main DK. I think a lot of people are going to main DK, but not everyone has to. So if you want to do like some Demon Hunter gameplay or whatever, please do, and you will have a lot of good time because it's very strong. It will always be very strong, I think, with their kits. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.